So, welcome back again to ARTFX Studios, and this one I wanted to do something different. This is the first video in a series of videos about sound design, and I'm gonna be making pads, interesting pads from samples, and I really wanted to do this video for a while. I've got a few samples right here that I've just taken from random sources, and I'm gonna use those to create interesting pad sounds. Now, these are really great because they just are gonna sound amazing. So, that's the first audio file. And in this first video, I want to show you how you can use Sampler, the Native Instruments sampler, to create interesting sounds. So I've got a MIDI track right here, and I've put Sampler on it, and I'm going to drag that first sample into the sampler. Now I've enabled this track, so I can now play it. I'm first going to go into the global tab, and I'm going to set this to 0. So now I can actually just play that sample, but there's one problem with it. The higher I go up a key, the faster the sample is going to play. So it's not really that suited for creating a pad sound with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the looping mode. So I'm going to click the second button under sustain mode, and you can see that we now have the loop region active. And what I like to do is I'm going to link the start position to the loop start position. And let's just make a really short loop. And let's play this. Let's see how this sounds. Okay, so we're getting that clicky sound, and that's because we're not cutting it right on the 0 crossing point. So what I can do is I can turn snapping on. And that makes it pretty much a lot better. I can bring the crossfading up a little. And that will make it even better. Now what I can do is I can go into the global tab, and I'm going to take the attack time. I'm going to bring that up to something about 1.5 seconds, and then I'm going to bring the release up to about 4.5 seconds. So it starts to sound a little bit better already. On the global tab, I think we're done here right now. On the pitch oscillated tab, what I like to do is turn the spread up all the way. So that's just gonna spread the voices, and it's gonna add some detuning. So that's really great, makes you sound a little bit wider as well. I think we've now already have something pretty good. I could even play a chord with this. And I might want to bring that volume down. So we've turned that first sample into pretty interesting pad sound. We can make this longer if we want, this loop, and what that's gonna do. It's gonna give the pad a little bit more of a changing characters, like it's morphing over time, and that's pretty great. Bring that crossfade up quite a lot, and then we can get something pretty interesting. Now, because we're playing different notes, we're getting some really interesting stuff. If I make this a lot shorter and I'm gonna zoom in, I'm really gonna make this super short. Maybe even turn snapping off and just make this really short. We might not even be able to hear it now, but when I go to somewhere around here, let's add a glue compressor just to make sure we're not going to clip. So that sounds pretty interesting. What more can we do to this? I can add some chorus. That would be great. Add a little bit of chorus to this. We'll widen the sound up even more. I like ping pong delay on something like this with about that setting. It's basically gonna lengthen the notes a little bit, and I might want to add a little bit of reverb. Bring that decay time up. So we've turned this into a pretty interesting pad. I quite like the sound of it. And the cool thing is we can just browse through this whole audio clip. We can do that. And it will basically become a different kind of pad sound. So that's pretty cool. I quite like this. Like the sound of it as well. So I could also throw a different sample in here now. So I've thrown in a different sample. And let's make a small loop again. You can see how this sounds completely different. And this will give you some really interesting textures. Now, if I make this loop really small again, turn snapping on, just make it really small, maybe crossfade it just a little. And that will give you totally different sounds. Turn snapping off. We can make this much more. So, as you can see, we could do really interesting things with this. And it sounds pretty interesting. Throw in a different sample, and again we're gonna get the same thing. Turn snapping on, make that loop, link it. I want to crossfade that. This one sounds a little bit weird. Maybe turn snapping off. So you can hear, when I browse through that actual file, I can get so many different kind of textures. It's really interesting. So I quite like that. Sounds pretty good. Let's try a different audio file. Let's see what we can do with this. Make a small loop. So I might want to bring that level up a little bit. So again, it already sounds like a pretty interesting pad. It's really, if I make that really short, and don't forget to bring up the crossfade. And you get such different sounds out of this. It's really amazing. And it's basically just a matter of trying out different things. Let's see, we've now tried a couple of different samples. We had that one, then we had this one. That was the second sample that I did. The third sample was this. Some kind of a scream. Then the fourth sample that I haven't yet tried, I think, is that one. Wait, that is, yeah, that's this sample. Now the next one. I think this one could be interesting as well. Let's try out what we can do with it. So link that, loop mode, bring that in. Let's loop this portion, give it a little crossfade. Right, so that sounds really great. That sounds really interesting. And if I go into here, we get different sounds. Now this is a pretty long sustained sound. And what I can do is I can make this loop much longer. So I could do something like that. And this is now going to play that clip in a pretty much the speed that it will normally play. But that way we can get those really morphing ambient textures. And if we want to have a little bit more of a, well, just a normal kind of texture, then you would make a small loop. And then it doesn't evolve that much. I think we might be clipping a little bit here, so I'm gonna back that up a little bit. And that was it. I mean, sorry guys, but the light of my my light right here, the battery of my light, it finished, and that's it. So yeah, I don't know how dark it's gonna be now. I think it's gonna be really dark. So this is a little inception moment. Okay, it's pretty dark. Well, I can continue if I want. Maybe I have some more light over here. Yeah, we'll just continue a little bit. There's some more sounds I wanted to show you. Pretty low drone-y kind of sound. Let's try that one. And let's do that. Link it. Sustain mode. Bring that to somewhere small. Crossfade it. Could be interesting. Not really for this one. That one. That one might be interesting. This one already has some high frequency content, so I think that would basically work pretty well. Link that. Let's try somewhere around there. Right, so that might actually be interesting. I'm gonna make this shorter. So that sounds pretty interesting. Could make it a little bit longer. So that one sounds pretty amazing. What do we have more? That one might be interesting as well. Drop it in there. Let's try and find an interesting spot. Might want to make it smaller. I think we've done a pretty good job. We've created some really interesting stuff. I've got this last sample, which is more or like a really long recording. So this one would definitely work to create some interesting kind of ambient background sounds. Be sure to crossfade that. Now I might have to boost the volume on this. Let's see, bring that volume up. So you can hear how we can create really interesting stuff with that. Now, that sample originally sounded like this. So that sample really becomes something amazingly interesting. So that was it for this video. I showed you how to create pads out of interesting samples, and literally every sample works. It's just a matter of trying out different things. Yeah, I also showed you how you could create some interesting background sound effects using just one long recording. Now, these recordings are coming from a video game. I'm not going to say which game it is, but they're coming from a video game. And if you look at especially this long file, you might know where it comes from. Other than that, yeah, next video is going to do the same thing, but we're going to be looking into Contact. Contact has a little bit more advanced possibilities to resampling sounds and creating interesting pads. So we're going to do that in the next video, which is probably going to be online somewhere next week. Other than that, yeah, I hope to see you back soon. I'm going to charge my battery of my light, so it's not going to turn off next time. And yeah, I hope to see you back soon. Peace.